Okay, this offseason is going to be critical for all the teams in the AFC East, but the Miami Dolphins, it is going to be a big one. And I would say also with the Bills too. Both first and second in the division, two teams with clear windows for success. And I've talked to commenters before, and I don't think people realize that the window for this team is 2023 and to a lesser degree, 24. Because in 25, this team is going to change dramatically. And some people are happy in a direction. Some people are unhappy in a direction. Reality is, because of the way this team has been built, the regime, the group needs to be here for 23 and 24 and let it ride. Because when you look at the construction, the team build, and I'm going to go through it all very, very detailed so there'll be no doubt, 2025 season will be the opportunity for a new regime to come in if this regime is not successful. But I do believe that it would not be beneficial to cut this regime short until the team build reaches its zenith. Because if a new staff comes in, say, next year, they're going to get that cut in 25, and it's going to put a crimp in their program. So the next two seasons are critical for this regime, for this team, and I'm going to outline that very, very clearly and show you what's coming in 25. Now, that's I guess you would say, a little bit of a downer side. It really isn't, because the talent is stacked for 23 and 24. There are holes, and I'm going to do another podcast after this to show how really easy it is, really, really easy it is to build out this roster so it's competitive and it can reach those goals, and this regime can prove itself worthy for when this window closes in 25 to restart the building process again. Now, easy is easier said than done, and there's some tough choices that need to be made, but let's deal with the strategic overlook of this cap situation, how it unfolds 23, 24, and 25. And that will allow us to see what's coming for us this season, what we need to do, and then going beyond, okay? Comprendez-vous, savez, the whole thing. So I just want to say thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you guys so much. I just want to give a quick shout out to you guys and to my sponsor, Ace Per Head. Without you, without them, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. Okay, so the overlay of what we have to work with, 23, 24, and 25. Now, this is a critical year. We currently have 44 players on the roster, minus 16 million, and we're going to get a bump in the cap. We don't know how much, and we don't know how much will be the next couple of years, so you have to hang that in the area. It could be anywhere between 10 to 20 million, or stagnant. We've seen that happen too, but I doubt that will be the case. So at minus 16 million, the first order of business is making 23 happen. This is clearly where a lot of the talent is going to be consolidated. There's going to be some tough choices at the end of the 23 going into 24 season, and then very tough choices going into the 25 season. But with 44 players on the roster, a bunch of these players are going to be trimmed away, and that's going to bring it down to a little bit more. But if you look, we've got Tehran on the roster, and everybody loves Tehran, except for the injury problem. But you can't get rid of Tehran until 24. At that point, a post-June cut is going to allow you $14 million in cap space and $2.4 in a cap hit. So you got to work with Tehran this year, and then 24, if they decide to, they can move off him, but he's locked in this season. Now, Hill, he's locked into 24 as well, where it's a $19 million savings and $5 million cap hit, but they're going to need to make money, to get money for the season with a few players on the roster, with some signings they're going to have to make. And I expect both Hill and Chubb to get some sort of restructure. So this could push Hill's lock-in date past 24. And I expect that to happen with Hill or Chubb. Now, Chubb, he's got $30 million this year and $63 guaranteed. But really, you can cut him in 24 with $20 million savings and $3 million hit. Now, they're not going to do that considering what they spent on him, but it allows them to move that money, that $30 million hit this year, and push it back. Now, that's going to alter some of these numbers. It's going to make him a player we're going to have to work with going towards the future, a real lock-solid piece. But that's why I think he's going to have – you can't go in with $30 million cap hit. So I think they figured on the restructure going forward. Now, Baker, you could move off him in 23 and get yourself 9 and lose 4, or 24, you can gain 11 and lose 4. But with the linebacker situation the way it is, I don't expect them to do that. Tyndale and Baker, and depending on what scheme we move to, and probably a linebacker in the draft. Now, Cedric Wilson, you could save 2 and lose 6. That's not going to help us. So I think Wilson's locked in. It'll be next year where you can save 7 and lose 1. So he's going to be with. All 4 of these guys are going to be with. Now, Noah, $600K saved this year, and you'd lose $3 million. As much as I don't want to say it, I expect him to be on the roster again. I do. It's $3 million, but we're so tight. It just... With Greer's desire to make this kid happen, give him one last shot, and the fact that you're not really saving anything, I do expect him on the roster. Eichenberg, you're not going to save anything. You spend too much. He's going to be back, and he's likely going to start. Jackson, you're not going to save anything, and you're going to lose 4. I expect him to start this season. But Jackson clearly won't get the 5th-year option unless we took the total loco pills and dipped it in peyote before we swallowed them. So we'll see how that goes. Now, Fisher's on the roster, who didn't play. He's 32, and he could save 1.5 and lose $500K. I expect him to get cut or maybe stay with them as a long shot option at tackle on right side. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. So that's the general overlay of what we got. Now, if you look, Byron Jones is clearly a guy on the move. They're going to have to move him. But there's a few problems here. He's 31, coming off a serious injury where he missed a season. You can see the image right here. You'll save 13, but lose 5. So you're really only going to get 8 for moving off him if you cut him. And I don't know about a trade. I think if you're going to trade, you're going to have to eat some of that money. So a trade might be in order. We need all the picks we can get. But it's not a free and clear separation until 2024. And again, we're pinned into this cap unless we do some heavy adjustments on Hill and on Chubb, which would allow Byron to stay. But we still have only 44 guys on the roster, minus a couple of cuts if we keep going forward. Now, Agba, can't get rid of him this year. You would lose $4 million and be on books for 21. That ain't happening. But next year and a year beyond, 24, you can. You can see right here. You would save 14 and lose 4, so you'd gain 10. So I expect Agba again to be on the roster as well. Now, X, you can see here, you can't get rid of him this year. It'd be $100,000 and $10 million. And I do think that you can alter the coverage scheme to help X out and make him be able to elongate his career. I think the move-off man will definitely spare his body, and even injured, he can play it, and that's where it's one of the things I want to talk about in the next podcast. Now, you see here, next year, though, you could save 18 and lose 7, so that's a strong possibility, but then you'd have to replace that corner position, so that would be very, very interesting. And then lastly, we take a look here. You see 23, at the end of the 23 season, we're going to have to decide whether we give Tua the fifth-year option or a long-term contract. Fifth-year option is like around 25 maybe. A little bit less, a little bit more, and then obviously a long-term contract would be more than that. Christian Wilkins, he's going to get the fifth-year option, or he's going to get the long-term contract, which is, I think it's $10 million or $20. I think they're going to go for the long-term contract. It's going to be 20 plus. Connor Williams is a free agent at the end of the 23 season. He's going to command at least $15 million. He's earned his way. He'll be a starting center someplace, and somebody will pay him around probably 15. Hunt's a free agent. The good news is with Tua and with Christian Wilkins, we can put the fifth-year option. With Robert Hunt, we can put a restricted tag on him, but he'll get at least 15. Zach Sealer is going to be a free agent, and he's going to be a free agent, and he's probably going to get around 15. And then Brandon Jones is going to be a free agent. I'm not sure what he'll get. I'm not really sure, maybe 12 or something. But we can put the restricted tag on him. And then Raekwon Davis, I don't know what he'd get. I don't even know if we'd want to bring back. But he'd get this restricted tag as well. Now in 24, Waddle, he's going to be a free agent going into 25 season. Kato Kohu's going to be a free agent going into that 25 season. And Phillips will be a free agent going into that 25 season. Both Phillips and Waddle, you could put the fifth-year option on, but considering those guys would have played the full of their rookie contract and probably both doing extremely well, they might hold out, they might put pressure on, and they might demand a long-term contract, but they'd be around maybe in the $15 million range, even on the fifth-year option, and considerably more on a long-term contract. Kohu, I don't know what he would get, but he would put the restricted tag on him. So, and you look below that, we have limited ammo this year to go into the next season, that 24 key season, with a second, third, 6, and 7. And then we kind of almost have a full complement in the 24 going to 25 with a first, second, no third and fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. But there's going to be a lot of players considering you have 44 players this year. Next year in 24, you have 28 players with $65 million available, which is not a ton considering you're only going to have 28 players. And then in 25, you're going to have 157 and only 12 players on the roster. But if you take that whole 12 players and 157 million, it could look dramatically different. X would save you 22 if he's gone. Agba would save you 19, which he's probably definitely going to be gone. Tehran could save you 17 if he's gone. I bet he's gone. And then you could save Jones, 5 on Jones if he's gone, which could get you around the 213 range, but with only 8 players on the roster. Now, all those contracts that we talked about, Tua, Wilkins, Hill, Waddle, Phillips, Hunt, that's about $130 million per season at the base. It could be considerably more if Tua gets that longer-term contract, the 40 and the 50 range. Or some of these other guys' contracts balloon as time goes on. Then you add Chubb, that's another 20. It's $150 million going into that 25 season, wrapped around 7 players. And then if you pull out X, you pull out Tehran, you got to fill those spots. So those are key spots that need filling, and you're going to have to find that somewhere in the free agency or hit big on one of these draft picks. So 23 minus Van Ginkel and Gesicki with a second, third, 6, and 7 looks to be the year where we're going to have growth, a little bit of savviness for the team to get into the postseason, and then a few picks to add to this roster. And I'll go over. It is not too difficult to help this roster out. The question is, will Chris Grier and the staff make the right moves to get there? And it's at 24, though, when you see all those players coming up, the cap's going to start getting a little bit tight. We might have to say goodbye to a Zach Sealer. We might, have no choice. And so you'll see a little bit of diminishing of the talent unless we hit big on the second, third, 6th, and 7th. And some of these older players step up. But what we saw in 22 was a pretty good peak roster in most of the areas. It was the depth that really hurt this roster. So it's filling that depth out that's going to be critical. And that's where it starts getting a little dicey in 24. And clearly in 25, you're going to have lots of big contracts. You're going to have lots of money, but really nobody on the team. And it's going to be a reset for the team around a series of key players, which every build goes through. Now, people will like to say the cap is, there is no such thing as a cap. It's fake. You can do whatever you want. That's not true. The cap is ultra fluid. It's just not nebulous. There is limitations. There is a point where it snaps, or else teams would keep going on and on forever. And they don't. And so it's okay that 24 restarts these things if we see success in 23 and 24. And I think McDaniel should get that time in 23 and 24, and maybe even Chris Greer, unless there's utter disaster in 2000. If there's not utter disaster in 2023, I think it should carry and let it run its course and then judge going forward. But it's not, it's going to be a lot harder on the cap side of things to keep things together than the actual pulling together of the talent and filling in the holes and making adjustments to accentuate some of your strengths so you don't need to fill these holes with giant blue chip assets. And that's what I'm going to get into next. So anyway, wanted to lay this out and then get into that next part next time and show you really, when you go back and look at the 2023 season, there was things that could have been done going into that season that could have alleviated so many problems. And with the experience of seeing that, this staff and regime should not have a vast difficulty filling those holes going into next year. But we'll see. Anyway, Curtis saying thanks for stopping by. Catch you next time. Be well. Go Fins. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with acebread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.